Twisted Wonderland is a game which beckons us into a world of villains. To delve into the depths of true villainy, based on the most supreme figures of it. Disney villains. And fittingly, many characters are criminals. Stalking, theft, questionable labor practices, embezzlement, otaku, despicable, the lot of them, and worst of all, attempted murder. Wait, you're serious? Like, nobody has murdered anybody yet? At all? Not even Jade and Floyd? Well, I guess Lilia would have, since he was like a literal ward general and whatever. But I guess that's technically state-sanctioned violence. So even if he did kill people, you could say it was wholly in self-defense. But even if he did anything that we would call murder and stuff, since he's doing it on behalf of the country, it technically means he hasn't committed any crimes. And before you claim he might have committed war crimes, the Geneva Conventions are barely a century old, and Grandpa here is a crusty 700, so presumably he's outlasted the statute of limitations. So even if he did commit a war crime, he can't be convicted for it. Please ignore the statute of limitations for war crimes to agree with this point. Or ignore literally everything about this point, because I haven't actually read the Geneva Conventions. Sorry. I mean, it's not like you're gonna go read them either. So really, we should all just stop pretending that we have read them and stuff, you know? But with that wrinkle out of the way, we can now definitively say that, in fact, nobody in Twist has committed murder, which is a horrible sin punishable by God. But, you know, murder, sure, it is irreversible, and it is morally reprehensible. But who doesn't enjoy a bit of casual murder, you know? Just for funsies and stuff. Seriously, next Halloween event should be like Lost in the Book, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Who wouldn't want to gamble for voice lines of our boys plotting how they're gonna murder each other? It'd be great. So, dear viewer, as I'm certain you are now in full agreement with me, let's do this in the meantime as those writers get going on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre event. Since the dawn of civilization, humanity has strived for survival, innovation, and killing each other. Murder, then, is an ancient ancestral tradition of ours, passed on through each generation to the next. Some may call humanity's persistence in this art to be barbaric and hedonistic, but I call it mere adherence to tradition. And no one in a Twist cast holds such rules as tradition in higher regard than Riddle Rosehearts. So, although he might not commit murder in the sense of it being a crime, for state-sanctioned methods such as execution, totally on the table. Riddle is unique among the cast, because even in this stupid scenario I'm putting in, where they would want to commit murder, I simply cannot rationalize him committing murder for the simple reason that it is a crime, which means breaking the law. And sure, he's had some character development since book 1, but I don't think he's at the point where he'd even pirate stuff. Therefore, Riddle would commit murder only by way of execution, since that's a legitimate form of murder. That said, the instant he does get someone to execute, he's lobbing their head off with a guillotine so fast Brooke won't have time to say, Vive la Russian! Oh god, I am so sorry to anyone who speaks French. Even by my standards, that was shit. Shitty French aside, Trey, on the other hand, is a much simpler man. You know, he just wants to live a quiet life, right? So, why would he want public spectacle or something as arduous and tedious to maintain and set up as a guillotine? So, like most people, I think Trey prefers his kills to be pretty chill. Just another Tuesday afternoon sort of shebang, right? Now, obviously, we're all thinking he just poisons people with cake, right? And that's true, because poison doesn't leave traces the same way stabbing does, so in comparison, there's not as much cleanup you need to do. But poisoning can still kind of leave a trail, especially if he's just doing it with cakes. Because I think if the police, they investigate all this because people are dying, and they find that all of the victims are eating Clover Bakery cakes before dying, I think they'll figure it out pretty fast. So, he has to switch things up eventually. Get a bit more creative with what foods he uses to kill his victims. Things that make it harder to trace it back to him. Because the Clover family are known for their delicious cakes, and he doesn't want to ruin his whole livelihood, So here's what I'm thinking. He starts using other people's recipes, other restaurants' recipes, so he can frame them instead. But in the process, what he does instead is now he is the restaurant killer. It's the best of both worlds. Poison, and he can get rid of people he doesn't like that much. Still, at some point he is going to have to stop or switch things up again, because if people realize that all of these restaurants are giving people out poison food, people are just going to stop going out to restaurants. And that would not be good for the family business. So, I imagine that Trey's murder arc is fairly short-lived, all things considered. Because, I don't know, it's just something he wants to try out, You only live once. In stark contrast, Cater needs those magic cam clicks. Like water to a man in the desert. Now, publicly murdering people isn't a good idea for obvious reasons. But if Cater is going to spend so much time and energy on killing people, he should at least find some way to make the ordeal somewhat cammable, right? So, Cater gets an idea. He's filthy rich, right? And he's sure he can cozy up to some old people pretty well, right? So Cater becomes Mr. Beast, but for older dying people. So he can still get those insane clicks for insane challenges meant to help the sick and elderly, and also kind of get to murder them without too much suspicion arising. As for exactly how he kills people, either they're already terminally ill, so after he does whatever Mr. Beast shenanigans with them, he just speeds it up a bit, we'll just say. Or if he's feeling really, really spicy, he actually does stab them. But he can't really do that too often because that's too suspicious. So, he makes a video, and then he does a murder thing or whatever. Really, this guy is the worst. Because he's not murdering for a good reason, right? Okay. None of the other two were murdering for good reasons either. But Cater specifically for doing it for clout chasing. He's just Jake Paul.
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment.
So he should get arrested. And if anybody in this cast who becomes a murderer, he should get arrested. Alternatively, he probably just makes Squid Game. I now realize that technically the past few ones are actually just me talking about how the cats would be serial killers, which some of them absolutely could be serial killers. But now I want to discuss murder, specifically in the singularity. And what I will mean by that will become very clear with the next one, because we're talking about Ace. So, Ace commits murder by complete accident. He's playing a prank on someone. I don't know who, maybe Grim, Deuce, you, whoever he's playing a prank on, he's being a stupid teenage boy. So maybe it's like the ice bucket challenge or whatever. Or maybe he just flings them for some cinnamon down their throat because that was his thing, eating a spoonful of cinnamon, which is also really stupid. Don't do that because for one, that's just an awful experience. But two, if you cough, and when you cough, you're gonna breathe back immediately because that's what you do when you cough, right? You're gonna get some of that cinnamon in your lungs. And that's not great for your lungs. It can kill you if you're not careful. I mean, as if you care about being careful if you do it in the first place, I guess, but whatever. So, now that we have an illustration of the scenario where he played a prank on a friend for funny ha 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 or whatever, the prank did not end in funny ha ha. It ended in dead. And now he's been arrested for murder. Now, I can see some of you pausing the video, staring into the screen, and thinking to yourselves, wouldn't he be arrested for manslaughter? Like, if it's just a prank gone wrong, that would fit more into manslaughter than it does murder, right? You know, the same reason why a car crash and killing somebody on the street would be manslaughter rather than murder. So, like, you know, for example, going back to the pranks we used earlier, if you did the ice bucket challenge and that somehow killed you, that would be manslaughter. Because it wasn't directly committed, but it was an accident he set up and he should have known the risks. So, if he did do the ice bucket challenge, maybe you're right. Maybe that would be manslaughter. But this is what I posit to you, ladies and gentlemen, specifically using the cinnamon shoved down throat prank. Since he shoved cinnamon down someone's throat, I think we can all say that's pretty direct, yeah? Like, he is taking his hand, taking a spoon, pouring cinnamon down on it, shoving it in someone's throat, they cough, they die. So, I think the directness of that, and the fact alone that he shoved a spoon down someone's throat, means that even if it was an accident, that the police would classify it as murder. So, I'm right. Pranks are how Ace commits murder, and that chance of him of all people getting away with it. Also, I would just like to mention, maybe even the ice bucket challenge could be considered planned murder rather than manslaughter, because I know Ace would probably be the kind of person who also put something else in the bucket. Like, I don't know, a bunch of Hot Wheels he had when he was 4 because he thinks it's funny. And then that actually just makes the ice bucket even more dangerous. So by pouring it on someone, that's premeditated murder. So even if he does the ice bucket challenge, he gets charged for murder. See, I'm a genius. I should be a lawyer. Nobody can argue with me. Deuce beats a guy to death in an alley. Now, Leona does have a history of attempted murder. With Reggie, obviously, because he literally dried him out. But also with that fucking stupid Stampede plan that was shoehorned in as a Lion King reference that makes Leona look so fucking stupid. On a side note, this BK Lily person, who I keep reading as Burger King Lily, made this pretty good video on Book 2. Please check it out. Insanity, like 2-hour-long analysis of a silly little visual novel deserves love and support, you know? I doubt you'll see this video, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't go watch it. Yeah, this is an advertisement, because I have no sponsors. Because, what kind of freak sponsor would sponsor shit like this? Well, okay, I guess YouTube sponsors are all shit and they all suck balls. So they don't have any morals. But I still don't think they would even sponsor this unless I framed it as true crime or whatever. This tangent has no relevance to this video. It's not hard to come to the conclusion that he would just turn his victim to Stan with his unique magic. But again, that's way too easy. And at this point, I've given up setting a page limit for myself, so let's try and speculate some more. You know, what other methods would Leona prefer? Especially non-direct methods, because turning people to sand is a pretty direct method, and that could get him caught pretty easily if he used it frequently enough. So, he could get a bunch of henchmen and stick them in as his foes. But let's delve a bit deeper. Leona, again, he can definitely kill on his own, but he's a smart guy. A political-minded sort of guy, as directly implied with him remarking that Felina should have given an expensive rug to the country for diplomacy and stuff. And also that little thing he has with Idia in book 7. I'm not gonna directly spoil it. I mean, I guess it's not really much to spoil anyway, but I don't know. If you know, you know. Okay, so let's just leave it at that. And now that aside, we also all know what Scar did, and Leona is directly based on Scar. Therefore, it is obvious to me that Leona's preferred method of murder is political assassinations. Like, orchestrating an unfortunate reaction between matter and gravity, and traumatizing a nation. But seriously, that fucking stampede was not the answer. What kind of crack did Leona have to be on to even think that was a good fucking idea? Oh my god. Ruggy. Ruggy. Why would he even kill in the first place? Wow, 15 minutes into this video and we're actually asking why these characters would even kill. But that was a rhetorical question, so ignore it. The thing about Ruggy is that he's actually kind of a chill guy. As in, if he ain't gonna get bread from it, why bother? So realistically, Ruggy would probably, if he were having to kill, be a hitman of sorts. So maybe he uses a gun, maybe he uses his unique magic as he does in book 2. That sort of stuff. Anything goes, so long as you get some dough out of it. The only thing I think he would have some reservations about is getting caught. Not specifically for himself, but since he does take care of his community back home, him getting caught would mean them losing a support system, especially all the kids, because he helps out with those kids. So, I don't think he would do the hitmanning very often, and he would only do it if he was sure if he could get away with it. Because obviously, he doesn't want his community to, you know, lose the sort of support he provides. Although, alternatively, if he thinks a job gives enough money, more money than he knows he can produce, then even if he does get caught, that money is worth more than him, you know? That got really depressing quick. The only way I see Jack committing murder is accidentally sitting on someone, breaking their spine, and then, like, I don't know, their brainstem or something. That, or he's using the person as a training weight or something and throws them into the distance and they get consumed by the sun, or they just die in space because they froze to death, or he just becomes Baki or something. I haven't watched Baki, but everything I see of it scares me to death, and it seems like if Baki, or that crazy person, or whatever, if they so much as take a single footstep, that will cause the next ice age on Earth, and then with the next footsteps, they'll just cause the heat death of the universe. So, I don't know. I haven't watched Baki. I don't plan to anytime soon. I have too many games and other anime I need to finish first. Yeah, I don't know. Jack becomes Baki. Yeah, that's how he commits murder. There you go. I hope you're all happy. Azul is a businessman. So like Hater, if he's gonna kill someone, he needs to get a little something else out of it, other than just whatever he considers entertainment. The answer is simple, then. He sells freshly sourced organs to the black market on the daily. This means he can't really use poison or anything or disembowel too badly, since that could ruin the quality of products. So what I think he would do to accomplish this daily business venture is, 1, he lures people in with his contracts. This is pretty easy to do and pre-established, so enough said there. And then 2, creates conditions that require the victim to be isolated with him or one of the Tweels, because they would definitely be super gung-ho about this. As for where they're going to be isolated, it's not always going to be Monster Lounge, since, again, or maybe it's never even Monster Lounge, because he can't afford to get tracked down. So maybe like the back of the mountains or the forest, that could also work. And then 3, once he's got them all up isolated, he vivisects them, because that way he can ensure that his products are as fresh as can be. And the fresher they are, the more money he can make from them. I imagine he would probably expand this operation more to eliminate contracts being made with him specifically, so it makes it even harder to trace him once he's got, enough people he can also just pin all the blame onto and whatnot. So, yeah, my man knows his business. Although that said, I can also see him considering this to be somewhat of a rare occurrence, because I watched that one scene in Breaking Bad, and writing this, I now realize that money laundering all of the money he'd be making from all of the organ business would be really, really hard, if not impossible. So, I don't actually know. I'm not an accountant. I'm just saying that this would probably limit his operations a lot more, at least in the beginning where he is not as established. So there's another extra consideration. And you can't say I haven't thought all this through. Yes. Hot take. But I think Jade would get himself killed before murdering someone. Not because he's adverse to murder, because if Homeboy gets to murder people, I know for a fact he's doing literally every possible methods. Nothing is off the table with him. But it's because about that damn mushroom foraging. Yes, he's smart. Yes, he's got a good memory. But even if you know what you're doing with most of them, even sure bets aren't always so sure. I know a guy who was out on a hike and died because he ate a mushroom he thought was saved, but turned out to be a toadstool, because toadstools can look almost identical to actually saved mushrooms. Yeah, that's fun. So, I know you can safely forage mushrooms. I know people have been doing it for hundreds of years, and they aren't going to stop anytime soon. But I'm still saying it's pretty scary business, okay? So, I headcanon that Jade will end up dead in a ditch by his 3rd year if he keeps this mushroom obsession of his up. Because by golly, that hobby is gonna just get him killed eventually. I just know it. Callie wouldn't murder anyone on purpose. I think what would happen is that he goes out into the scalding sands. I don't know why. There's probably some reason. I don't feel like coming up with the reason. But he's out in the scalding sands, out in the big world of a desert. And while he's out, he stumbles upon a village in drought. And, Callium, he has a big heart. He doesn't want to see people suffer. And he has a unique magic that can solve the very issue plaguing them. So, when he goes to that village, he oasis makers the shit out of that place. Because he is a good person. But because he oasis maker that shit, he ends up accidentally flooding the place because they don't have the infrastructure to deal with floods. So in his attempts to help people, he ends up killing all of them, or at least destroying their entire livelihoods. It's kind of poetic. I like it. Jamil would be like Leona, in the fact while he technically might not kill his victims directly, he still killed them because he planned it all, Actually, given how much responsibility the Azims are willing to put on a literal child, because remember, he's been Kalim's servant since he was a child, and also, he got poisoned when he was a child to serve Kalim. Questionable labor practices aside, because of an already pre-established history, I don't think it's super out of the question that when he's older, like now, maybe even because Jamil already mentions assassination attempts and protecting Callie from assassination attempts, they would probably expect him to do a bit of murdering against the people trying to assassinate Kalium, Like, retaliatory assassination, preemptive assassination, both of them, whatever. I don't know what goes on. Scalding Sands politics sounds really scary, though. Whatever's the case, Jamil still isn't allowed to murder by his own free will. And that is a tragedy I will never forgive the Azim household for. Let the boy murder and travel the whole world for 7's sake. I'm sure changing the societal systems and laws that allowed for the Viper's family situation in the first place can't be that hard, and I'm sure you can get the people who benefit from it the most to wholeheartedly agree that ending it would be better for everyone else in the long run, because people are very nice and reasonable and stuff. Like Leona, Vil also commits attempted murder in the main story, with giving Nage appy juice infused with his gamer girl bathwater. And, for the most part, using curses would be the most fashionable way to commit murder, I think. You know, just stabbing people and blood is just so crass. But poisons or an eternal sleep is aesthetic. And there's nothing we love more than a queen who would poison the shit out of you and be beautiful while doing it. There is unlimited potential with Phil. Obviously, anything to do with apples, that's on the table. I mean, like, the whole apple thing is kind of part of his brand and whatnot, being based off the evil queen and stuff. But there are just so many possibilities again. Like, what if instead of appy juice, he infuses mayo with his gamer girl bathwater? Which would be a double fuck you, since mayo is his least favorite food, since it gave him 3 pimples. So it would be like him telling you that if you're going to die, you might as well die looking ugly as sin. And yes, I do know that information off the top of my head. I promise I'm very sane and healthy. Or, if he gives you some skincare products, out of the kindness of his heart. Even more so because, you know, maybe you're a fellow actor, even a rising star, an underdog, and this big wig celebrity comes and gives you his hand with all these skincare products, and you're thinking, oh my god, Phil Schoenheit, he's so amazing, I can't believe he's doing this, he's so kind. But it turns out that all of it ends up being filled with lead, like that white face powder people used to put on their faces, or I don't know, it's cursed to be like lead or whatever, you know, they're just poisoned or whatever, you know, or if he's just like, I don't know, he curses you to have cancer or something because he gave you an autograph, I don't know, whatever route he takes with his murdering, I will fully support it. And on that note, if hit celebrity Phil Schoenheit is watching, I will volunteer to be murdered by you. Rookwood Hunter asked. Obviously, Bro's probably kidnapping his victims, putting them in some forest, and challenging them to escape from the forest before he gets to him or something. You know, predator-prey play. And while I don't doubt Rookwood greatly enjoyed in that way, it's, well, I don't think that usually ends in dead, you know. Anyway, he actually would probably give his victims the advantage to even out the playing field, since I don't think he'd be super into it if he had the entire advantage. Like setting up traps everywhere, having cameras, having a map or whatever. If Rook's killing you, he's relying only on his own senses and bow and arrow. Senguji's psychopath would be quivering in his cowardly boots. However, he is the hunter of love, you know? And he's devoted his whole being to beauty. So, after he's killed you, because even with the disadvantage, as if you're going to be able to escape the Rook hunt, I think he would make a taxidermy of your body or something, and add it to his collection of victims. It's a win-win for him. He gets to go on a thrilling hunt, and he also gets his own personal museum, which is in line with his character. I'm pretty sure in his birthday voice lines he's expressed a desire to have his like own personal art gallery or museum or whatever. So, yeah, good for him. Oui, baguette. Appel also beat someone to death in an alley. Ortho would just Goku beam your ass because you said idiot eats his own burgers or something. Idiot swats people. As for the Insomnia boys, we've already kind of covered Lilia, but we're gonna cover how he would commit murder in the present, which is also an easy question to answer. Because at some point you know he's just gonna kill someone without food, it's inevitable. Silver and Sebek would probably only kill someone if they were threatening Malleus in some way. Because even in a world where they would want to murder, I can't think of them, especially Sebek, doing so in a context divorced from Malleus, especially since they're still his retainers and stuff. And the reason I'm saying this is because they'd only kill people in the name of protecting Malleus, because doing so otherwise is out of their job description. But because they're doing it in the name of protecting Malleus, and we know they use swords, they would be one of the few Twist characters who actually stabs people! I mean, sure, they got magic and all, but come on, they got swords for a reason! Swords are made to drink blood. Yum. Malleus accidentally causes the next ice age and causes the ends of the world. That's it. Now, how many of them actually serve for their crimes is a bit up of debate. Some of them could get caught pretty easily. Like, Ace gets caught immediately. But this is also NRC, School of Nepo Babies and Schemers. So, I'm sure some of them, either they out-scheme the police, or they are still able to get away with it even if people caught on because of those Nepo Baby bucks. Anyways, that is how I think all the Twist characters would commit murder and kill people. Like and subscribe, do the video thing, and once again, I promise that I am perfectly sane and completely fine. No, I am not taking responsibility for the confusion you're probably feeling. L plus ratio plus I'm better than you!